Welcome to IST Presents. I'm Chippy Buenafe. With the current coronavirus crisis, businesses have been struggling to get their bearings straight. Disruptions in supply chains have impacted much of our economy these days. Is there any hope that we can get ourselves back on track? Where can technology play a vital role here? Our guest today provides some insights on how businesses can move forward in spite of the crisis. Simon Villalon is the managing director of Cation Technologies, a cloud first company that empowers workforce productivity through digital transformation. Simon possesses a strong leadership background in enterprise technologies with over a decade of leadership experience in the field. Simon previously led the Solutions and Software Development Division of the Hewlett-Packard Global Delivery Philippines Center, covering all the major global markets of enterprise initiatives such as e-commerce, data analytics, software engineering, and industry consulting. Simon, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Chippy. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so ever since we've gone through this crisis already, could you tell us a little bit what were the immediate challenges that your company, has faced when it became clear that this coronavirus crisis has become quite serious?
Yeah. The reality was, even though we were seeing and we were monitoring the news quite a bit with regard to the virus, and with regard to its spread, no. So there were months leading up to it where we thought that, hey, something might happen. Let's prepare for it properly. The swiftness, I would say, of the ECQ still caught us by surprise. No? So I still remember the day before it happened, we were in a leadership meeting and we realized that something was going to go down very, very quickly. And the immediate reaction was, how do we secure the ongoing projects that we had running? So since we do ERP implementations, we do software and business consulting. We had projects running all over Metro Manila. We had two teams that were out. One was in Cagayan de Oro, one was in Cebu. And so we had to figure out, do we fly them back? How serious is it going to be? At that point in time, information was quite scarce. We didn't know how long it would last. We didn't know to what extent it would be. They were saying, would it be first about total lockdown, and then they were saying, oh no, they'll restrict some movements, but still some things could happen. So the information was coming in bits and pieces before we had the final proclamation from an ECQ standpoint. So the immediate thing that we had to do was we had to secure our people. We had to find out where they were. We had to arrange for them to get back into town if they were somewhere else. And then after we secured them, we had to figure out how's business going to continue for us. Like you said, we're a cloud first organization, so I think we're fortunate in that space that we made the shift to going into an online platform quite a bit. However, a lot of our clients were not yet in that space, so we then had to try to figure out, oh goodness, can we continue with them? What are they going to look like? How can we help them right away? So the immediate challenge really for us was first it was people. This is really it's really a people challenge. It's a health crisis. It's first and foremost. So we had to make sure that our people were safe, and then after that, are their families safe? And then after that, it was, okay, batten down the hatches. Let's figure out how long this is going to go in order for us to prepare from an organization perspective our ability to continue and our ability to thrive in this new crisis-riddled environment.
Okay. I mean, these were the challenges that you were faced as the provider, as the supplier. Have you had an opportunity
Yep.
to find out perhaps on what the challenges were from the side of your clients? I mean, what were they most concerned
Yep.
about?
Yeah. For our clients, from the flip side, no, as a business owner, our clients were looking at what was the impact to their business going to be. And all of a sudden, the first thing that they all realized was that everything that they projected from a budget perspective, from a sales perspective, from a growth perspective, all of their business strategies evaporated the moment that the ECQ was put into place. And then they started to figure out how do we survive. Like the first question was a financial question, right? With the overhead that they have, the manpower contingent that they had, their stocks, everything from a stock perspective. How can we move our stock? How can we take care of our people? What's going to happen to these projects we have half done, no? That they're midway done? No? What's going to happen to all of that? So for our customers, they were looking at what is the financial viability of my company going to be. You know, they're securing cash flow. They're trying to pull in as much receivables as they could. They're trying to send out the bills where they could. And then at the same time, for the ones who are very responsible and the ones who were thinking ahead, they were also thinking about what does my ecosystem look like. So we're fortunate to work with very forward-thinking partners, very forward-thinking customers also. Our customers in particular, they're worried not just about what their outlook looked like. They're worried about what their supply chain looked like. So they're worried about their suppliers. So they're worried about us. So our customers were like, well, how are you guys? What you guys need? What you guys looking for? How are you guys? And they were doing that with their other suppliers as well. So the companies that took a step back and realized that, hey, this is probably going to last for some time. They were looking at the important pieces of their supply chain. They were looking at the important pieces of their value chain. And they were trying to secure and they're trying to make sure that as much of that would remain intact for when we emerge from the ECQ in the weeks to come. No? So they were thinking not just about their business. So when we talk about their business, the things that they're selling, the goods that they're selling, what they're bringing to market, they're also thinking about how they put the goods together in order to sell. No? So who are we buying from? Who's doing our deliveries? Who's selling for us? So they were looking at that entire value chain, and they were looking to secure that value chain also.
Okay. As you and your company went through each day during this crisis, by any chance, were there any skills that you needed to learn in order to cope with the situation?
Well, it's hard to say that well, the skills were survival skills first, right? I mean, that's survival first. No? I mean, it's a health crisis first. So, I was skills. No, I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, we have to learn how to present online. Because we did. From even our sales guys, we had to learn how to move from a face-to-face interaction into a online interaction, right? So video conferencing, what we're doing now, it's very different to video conference sales, very different to video conference a project steering committee meeting. It's very different to video conference a team meeting versus doing it face-to-face. No? But the first skill that people had to realize was, survival skills. It became a people crisis very, very quickly. And the first thing that we had to do is we had to settle the organization up. We had to say, okay, guys, it's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. You need to have the skills to be resilient through this crisis because you're going to see things and you're going to hear things which will test your patience. They'll 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 test your anxiety. They'll test your ability to be calm. They'll this puts us in a situation where we're not just thinking about delivering the work for our clients, not just thinking about making our organization succeed, but there's this undertone of how deeply and how personally will this virus impact me, and there's that sense of danger. There's an underlying sense of danger. So when we meet our team, so one of the first things that we did was we set up weekly check-ins with the entire organization. So everyone had to get into a call every week, and everyone would give updates on how they're doing. And then as a leadership team, we also did that daily. So we meet the whole organization every week. As the leadership team, we get together at 8 o'clock every morning to keep things going. and to keep things moving and keeping the focus there. So the skills that we had to learn there was, we had to like share with folks how to prepare themselves mentally for the task ahead, to maintain this ahead. And then we had to talk to people about how do we structure our meetings, what are the updates to give, what are the conversations that we have to have on a regular basis, so that we can have quality discussions. So people would call that a quote unquote soft skill, but it became a hard skill for us because we had to put a process in place in order for us to continue working in this remote fashion, right? Normally, from a work from home perspective, maybe you're working from home once a week or twice a week, right? In a large organization, an enterprise level organization, maybe you have that flexibility. But this is the first time that everyone was out, everyone was at their homes. Some people had to go to the province, some people had to uh, move into a dorm to get to connectivity, etc. So everyone's personal circumstance was different, and since our personal circumstances were different, we had to come up with a structure and a process so that people knew how to start their days, how to end their days, and what would happen in the middle also. So that skill, whether you call it putting first things first or time management or strategic planning, that was the first thing that we had to do after we settled everyone down and got everyone into a frame of mind that, hey, it's going to be like this for quite some time. So we need to operate our business very, very differently.
Yeah. Well, we were kidding a while ago about survival skills, and typically, as
Yeah.
they say, jokes are half meant. But
Yeah.
the thing here is that as you were learning these skills, the survival skills, as you were mentioning just now, was there any impact to the productivity of your organization, of the work that you needed to do, or was it just the
Yeah.
same, or how does it look like?
That's a good question, and that's so I'm part of like you're talking earlier. I'm part of a few online forums of other business owners and other entrepreneurs, and productivity was the question that everyone had. How do you measure productivity when people aren't in the office, right?
Mm.
And the reality is that even when we're in the office, it's difficult to measure productivity.
Mm.
We think we're measuring productivity because we see people working at their desks,
Mm.
right? So we see someone there and they're on their computer or they're writing something or they're having a meeting with someone. So we think they're productive. But the real measure of productivity is output. Diba? Our projects moving forward. It's the code getting written in a quality fashion and the like. No? So what had happened is after we put the structures in place, we realized that this was an acid test for all of the protocols and all of the standards that we put in, and then so we had to then check. So, for example, from a project implementation standard that we had, our gold standard, we had to now check: are we measuring these things properly? Are we getting the data properly when we say that we've submitted this module or we're done with a particular project phase and we're done on time, on budget? So we had to question: are we really on time, on budget? So because we started questioning ourselves, we found that the productivity, at the very least, remained the same. In some cases, it improved because we had to step up the monitoring of these processes. So every time we receive something, since we couldn't get body language confirmation or verbal confirmation, verbal tone confirmation, we'd have to double down on the emails that we received. So if a consultant said, I'm done with this configuration, I'm done with this phase of the project, we'd have to double down and get into a call and say, did you really do this? Did you really do this? Did you really do this? And because of that, we found that, or at least I found that working remotely forced us to be stricter with the way that we're monitoring a lot of our projects. 'Cause, we're kilometers away from each other. We're not two cubicles or two tables away from each other anymore. So the productivity from that perspective stayed the same. So at the very least, it had to stay the same. So where we could, meaning where our customers were still able to access their systems, we had access to their people to bring the projects forward. All of those projects are continuing according to schedule. So that's a good thing. And then the caveat though is for the people and our customers who don't have access to the connectivity, who don't have access to the systems, those are the ones very clearly that have fallen behind, right? So that's the process, the technology, and the people coming together to determine the levels of productivity that we're able to maintain. Yeah. So in the spaces, just to round back to the question, no? So in the spaces where we had those three factors in place, the processes were ready, the technology was ready, and the people were ready, we've maintained or increased our productivity for those projects. Where one of the three was not ready, that one just fell off a cliff. And we've had to call some projects and say, sir, ma'am, parang hindi na kaya. I mean, the folks can't get to the data, they can't get to their workstations, they don't have a laptop at home, they don't have connectivity at home. Pause muna tayo, ma'am. We'll get together after the quarantine is over. So it's almost black and white. So the ones that are successful can go through with those three factors. The ones that don't have those three factors in place have to stop until further notice.
Okay. You were just mentioning about the three factors. With the way on how you were trying to put discipline to the organization during this time, have you noticed any impact as regards work-life balance? Was it neutral? Was it worse? Was it better?
Work-life balance here, and we know this. We both worked in multinational organizations, right? Work-life balance, if we measure it in terms of hours in a day, once you bring a work from home setup into the equation, it's impossible to measure it in hours in a day. Because so for me, my kids were laughing at me because the moment I wake up in the morning, so if I get up to think about seven in the morning, so I get up at about 7, and then my work day starts at 8. So by about 7:30, I'm in front of my laptop at my desk, and I don't leave my laptop until about 6 in the evening. So that's about maybe 11 hours straight.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll come back onto my laptop at my desk later in the evening at about 9, 10 o'clock just to check things before read up on a few things before going to bed. So in this situation, it's difficult to have that traditional concept of a work-life balance. Just because of proximity, we don't have to drive to an office now. We don't have to, for those of us who are working at home now. So in that sense, if we're measuring it by absolute hours, it's quote unquote worse, right? Because 14 hours a day, it's that's a normal day when working from home. It could easily be a normal day when working from home, no? And there's a lot of research behind that also. So I was reading a few articles that come out on international publications. I was reading one on Bloomberg saying the same. I was reading one in Forbes that had said the same. And the harsh truth is that if we measure work-life balance by hours, this is probably worse for a lot of other people, no? But the reverse is true, no? Even though I'm at my desk the whole day, I can stand up for 10 minutes and carry my baby daughter for 10 minutes, right? I can go down, find my wife who's working on something downstairs, and we can have a 5-minute chat to clear my head also, no? So in that sense, if there's a conscious effort to break it up just a bit, to get what I need in order to be refreshed and to be ready for my organization, it's also readily available. It's also not 45, 1 hour, 2 hour commute, 45-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour commute to get home to have that kind of interaction. It's 10 steps away or 20 steps away. So that's where it has to change, I think. If you're to ask me, I mean, that's the way that the work-life balance equation needs to change. From an hour perspective, it cannot be that anymore. It has to come from a quality perspective. Are we getting the quality interactions that we want from a work-life balance first and foremost? And if that's happening, then yes, we can say that we have work-life balance because the hours are there. And the hours are there because we know as social beings, we need to do more now. We have to exert more effort to connect to people because we have to do it through a medium. It can't be face to face anymore. So if we're going to connect through this medium where there's extra 2, 3 steps in order to have a conversation. We need to spend more time setting up these meetings, setting up the conference calls, and more effort has to go into that, right? So hence the longer hours. No? So it's quality of the interaction. We have to look at the quality interaction at home if we're to get through this successfully with home, with friends, with family, with work colleagues. It has to be the quality of interaction that we seek to improve.
Okay. Well, let's do a little bit of a thought experiment. If you had to go through all of these things again, okay, well, we hope it doesn't have to happen again in reality, but let's play along those lines. If you had to go through all of these things again, what would you have done differently, perhaps?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? And it's speaking philosophically first, right? It's a challenging question to have because we don't want to go through something like this again.
Mhm.
But the reality is, the odds are where we're at now, we will have to face something like this again. Um, the first thing that I would do, the first thing that I would do differently is um, we'd have maybe like the equivalent of a disaster preparedness uh, sheet in front of everyone, right? So in case this happens again, these are the steps to follow. Similar to the way that we have fire drills or earthquake drills, there has to be a documented process that's practiced in case something like this happens, right? Like I said earlier, we had to scramble to get people back into the city. We had to find out where people were, get people connected, etc., etc. So if I were to do this again, the I would like to have had that process clearly written out for us.
Mhm.
Won't be perfect by any means, right? But at least there is a baseline framework to go from to have that done. No? I think it needs to be budgeted also. So from a business owner standpoint, from an organization standpoint, there needs to be some resources allocated towards this. Same way that you allocate resources towards maintaining a sprinkler system, towards HMO coverage
Mhm.
for the people. It's the same thing. So until this changes, right? People are saying that there's most likely going to be a reemergence of the virus. Things go the same until a vaccine is tested and deployed. So we have to think that it might be seasonal, same way that flu season is a yearly
Mhm.
occurrence in the northern hemisphere, right? I mean, so we need to prepare for this, and in order for us to prepare for this, the business needs to transform so that it can withstand it. So these skills around connectivity, workforce readiness, mental preparedness. If I were to do it again, if I were to go through something like this again, it would be to prepare the people first so that they're ready from a process perspective, from a mental perspective on how to deal with this. Second one would be our infrastructure to make sure that our infrastructure is ready for this. From a connectivity standpoint, from a equipment standpoint, that needs to be ready. And third, the conversations with our clients. So what we're going to change now is as we start launching new projects with new clients, this has to be part of the project charter for us now for how we implement and how we go forward so that our clients are also ready. So we're talking about that value chain earlier. As many people as possible on that value chain need to be ready for this type of event going forward. And part of the preparedness is making sure that we identify and work with the people in that value chain so that everyone is successful and everyone is resilient in an event like this where possible.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure to have you with us, Simon. Thank you for sharing your thoughts today.
Happy to share, Chippy, and always happy to chat with you. Always engaging, and appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and everyone who's viewing this.
That's Simon Villalon of Cat Ion Technologies. If you have any feedback about our show, please email us at ist@uap.asia. I'm Chippy Buenafe, and thanks for tuning in.